You ever wake up and find a Civil War cannon staring you down from your own front yard, like not a little garden gnome, but an actual brass-barreled 800-pound war relic gleaming in the sunrise? Because that's how my retirement at Maple Ridge started. Getting sideways right there, 7 in the morning. Cordelia Peaton in a cream pantsuit folder bulging with legal threats and a face so red you'd think she just lost her life savings at a slot machine. She jabbed her finger at the cannon, my cannon technically, and shouted, "Remove that disgusting piece of war machinery or I'll have it demolished by city ordinance." Yeah, that happened. I was barely 2 sips into my coffee. You want to talk about a scene? Picture a crisp autumn morning sun bouncing off that cannon's polished brass like a beacon, Victorian columns at my back, Lake Serenity all glassy behind me, and gold maples framing the whole crazy tableau. 3 months ago, I'd left 15 years of private security work for what I thought would be lakeside peace never crossed my mind. I'd be waking up to civil war on my own front lawn. That cannon just appeared one morning, no note, no warning, just a card tucked in the barrel. To remember those who sacrificed for freedom from an old friend. Someone knew my new address, knew about my past, and clearly wanted me to have a piece of history. I had no clue it would bring all the secrets and chaos in its wake. It wasn't just a pretty antique. The restoration on that thing was museum-grade oak wheels, authentic fittings, the kind of work that says, "Serious collector, not Etsy impulse buy." I'm Thaddeus Blackwood, Thad to my friends, and as I'm standing there taking it all in, Cordelia's voice cuts through the air, all HOA righteous. This weapon violates Section 15.3 regarding aesthetically disruptive items. She was flipping through that folder like she was drawing 6 shooters at the OK Corral. And it's a danger to children, sure, lady. Never mind, it hadn't fired a shot since Grant was a general. I could have laughed. Her hair was one of those platinum bobs that says, "I haven't bought groceries myself in 10 years. Her makeup was TV anchor perfect, and her pantsuit screamed, "I will outspend you in court." But I kept it civil. "Mrs. Peaton, it's a deactivated historical artifact, legally no different than a sculpture." You'd think that'd be the end. But Cordelia just unloaded a stack of paperwork from the City Fire Marshal Historical Committee Public Safety like she was building a little fort out of bureaucracy right there on my porch. "You have 48 hours to remove that monstrosity or the city will intervene." She even tried to look disgusted, but I caught something else in her eye, a weird fascination. Not just HOA outrage, more like hunger. That's when my neighbor Jeremiah shuffled over, moving slow, but with that Marine Corps presence you can't miss. He calls out, "What's all the commotion?" Thad and Cordelia tries to smile at him, which is like a wolf baring its teeth. She tried to rope him in, but Jeremiah just grinned. "Military weapon. Lady, that's a museum piece. Seen more artillery in my breakfast than that cannon's fired in 100 years. That got a laugh from a couple joggers, and suddenly half the neighborhood was pretending to walk their dogs past my place. Cordelia tried again. "It violates HOA standards for decorative installations." I pulled out my phone. Years in security, you learn to keep everything scanned. "No mention in the deed or bylaws about historical items," I told her. For the first time, her mask slipped. She bluffed about recent updates. Everyone should have been notified about, but my mail was up to date, and I'd never seen a thing. I asked for documentation, real official stuff. That's when she got testy. "You don't understand the seriousness of this situation." The threat just hung there, and now everyone was really watching. Then Jeremiah stepped in again. "Ma'am, what's your official capacity with the HOA? Been here 12 years. Never seen you at a meeting." Cordelia's panic showed just for a second. "I was recently elected," she snapped, then stormed off to her white Mercedes, already calling someone before she'd even closed the folder. Jeremiah shook his head. "That woman doesn't sit right. Real HOA presidents don't talk like that. I think she wants the cannon for other reasons." Now, you ever have one of those moments where you realize you've stepped into something bigger than yourself? I spent the rest of the day digging into the cannon and into Cordelia. Turns out her address belonged to a shell company and her name didn't show on any official HOA doc. And this cannon, well, the markings on the barrel weren't just decorative. Coded symbols, carefully restored. Suddenly, the artifact angle wasn't just for show. 48 hours later, right on Cordelia's schedule, a black van rolled up. But instead of her, a woman named Marlo Sinclair with the Historical Preservation Society hopped out flashing real credentials and a genuine smile. Her crew had scanners and macro lenses, and they were laser focused on those coded markings. I tried to peek. Just standard manufacturer marks, one guy muttered way too quickly. Right. That night my phone rang, deep voice, no name. Mr. Blackwood, there's been interest in my gift. Someone who served under your father in Afghanistan. That hit me. My father died on classified ops when I was 18. Those people aren't historians. They're treasure hunters, and they're after more than history. He hung up before I could get more. Cue research. Spiral Battery H, 1st Virginia. Artillery, legendary unit vanished at the end of the Civil War, supposedly transporting the Confederate treasury millions in gold never found. This cannon might be the key, those markings a cipher for the lost gold. Now it made sense, Cordelia's obsession, Marlowe's team, even that legal goon who showed up next, sweating through threats of emergency preservation seizure. I called the real Preservation Society. They'd never heard of Marlowe. No such operation, no legal claims. Someone was running a full con. Turns out Cordelia wasn't even Cordelia. Her real name, Victoria Ashworth. She'd bought 6 houses in the area through shell companies. Professional treasure hunter, criminal history coast to coast, specializing in Civil War loot, especially anything linked to the lost Confederate gold. She'd used fake HOA power, fake preservation teams, and now was sending in legal muscle. That night, Jeremiah showed up with bourbon and bad news. Victoria's connected to artifact thieves, serious people not afraid to get violent. He pulled up an article collector murdered in New Mexico Civil War, artifacts stolen, Victoria's name floated by police. She's not giving up, Thod. And whoever sent you that cannon knew what they were doing. I started feeling less like a retiree and more like bait in someone else's trap. After that, my property turned into a stakeout. Strange cars, long lenses, hang-up calls. Victoria was ramping up. But a twist hit me in the library. A diary from a Union soldier describing coded marks on Confederate cannons to preserve the South's future. The battery commander, Captain Thaddeus Blackwood, my own ancestor. I wasn't just in the middle of a mystery. I was the missing link. Somebody had given me this cannon because I was his descendant, the only one who could break the code. Victoria had figured that out too. So I stopped waiting and started planning. Jeremiah called in reinforcements, Tri-State Veterans Honor Guard, 15 combat vets, all parked on my street by sunrise. Victoria wasn't ready for that. She came at 3 a.m. with a helicopter, her own tactical crew professional but outnumbered. As they moved for the cannon, Jeremiah and his people stepped out quiet, disciplined. Victoria tried bluffing. You old fools can't stop me. But then Patricia Holbrook retired. Army Corps showed up with federal paperwork and Colonel Sterling, my father's old commander, in a Humvee. Turns out Sterling was the anonymous old friend who'd gifted me the cannon, planning this whole sting to catch Victoria's crew red-handed. What followed was chaos. Victoria cornered, tossed a smoke grenade, and tried to escape. She barely made it to her chopper, screaming through a megaphone, "This isn't over! Blackwood, the Confederate gold belongs to me." Federal agents swept in, arrested most of her crew, but Victoria and 3 other cannons disappeared into the fog. Turns out the code on my cannon is only one part of a bigger cipher. 4 cannons, 4 codes only solvable together. Victoria's got the other 3, but she needs mine. The safe in my basement held my family's secret maps, letters, the master code, and a letter from my father. He knew all along. Son, you're not just protecting treasure, you're defending American heritage. Now, my mansion's basically command central for the veterans, the FBI, and a whole network of folks fighting to protect military artifacts from international thieves. Victoria's out there plotting her return, but she's got one thing wrong. She thinks Americans are going to give up their history for a bag of cash. She's about to find out we don't roll over that easy. So here's my question for you. What would you do if your family's past suddenly made you the guardian of history? Do you keep fighting even when the enemy's bigger, richer, and won't play by any rules but their own? Drop your thoughts down in the comments because I want to hear from the folks who understand what legacy and justice really mean. And if you've got a story about standing up for what matters, hit that like button, subscribe, and help keep these battles in the light, because the real treasure isn't gold. It's the courage to fight for what's right and the memory of those who never back down.